Who's starting us today? You want me to start us?
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Rough start.
Right on the money. We are here. Welcome to our podcast. I'm excited about our topic for today. So we've been thinking, what is the right topic for us to get into? And we've known that we've been on quarantine for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so to be right honest with you guys, we're going to talk about relationships. Because, one of the things is when you're stuck with somebody for 6 weeks or a few people for 6 weeks, there is the potential for some disagreements. Potential. I don't know how many confessions we're going to have around this group today, but the second part of this is ministry is big-time relationships. Yeah. And we are passionate as a church that we want to move out of this quarantine when it's appropriate. We want to hit the ground running. Mm-hmm. And we want you to be involved in the ministry. Yeah. And we want to get you involved. So what are some ways that we can do it? And so in doing some preparation for this, one of the big things that we came back with was we can provide some resources for relationships and ministry. Yeah. Is that a good enough setup for you guys? Mm-hmm. Somebody want to jump in on that?
Yeah, that's good. Well, so last week we talked about resources involving our spiritual walk or our relationship with Jesus, and a couple included the video series The Chosen. Anybody dive into that yet? I still haven't.
Stop asking these accountability questions.
Sorry.
Yeah. We haven't made it through all the Marvel movies yet. We're trying to get there, man.
I watched episode number 1 of The Chosen again. Since last week. It was good.
This
it was
guy
good.
Right here.
He's on it.
Yeah.
He is there.
And then we also talked about the resource of the BibleProject.com. And
I've been on there.
I have too. Since then, I've that has been a great one on sacrifice and atonement that I found, and I've shared it with somebody, and it's just a great resource. So we want to move to a relationship resource resources to continue encouraging our church family. And we've just seen so many people, even during this time of being apart, of just using their gifts and their passions. And now we want to help give resources to how do we take next steps into those and help people recognize maybe some other things, maybe some things within our walls and things outside of our walls that they can use their gifts and passions. And so I think that's some of the resources we're going to talk about today.
It's interesting that both the news media and friends that I have who are psychotherapists are saying the same thing, that since the quarantine, the domestic issues, domestic violence, violence amongst family members is on the increase. Apparently, after being quarantined for so long, people don't know how to get along, don't know how to perhaps resolve conflict. Nerves are on edge, what have you. But it's become a concern. You're hearing about it in secular news as well as from psychotherapists. Both are saying the same thing, that assaults on children and assaults on men, women, and what have you, that's becoming an issue. And so this is right on time. It's talking about relationships.
Yeah. So we think we have a resource to talk about that would be helpful in this situation. And so if you go to our New Life website, newlifecity.church, and you go under the resource tab, underneath there you will see SHAPE test, SHAPE, it's an acronym, SHAPE test. Click on that. Give yourself about 30 minutes and fill that out. It will do a number of different things. One, it will give you a personality profile similar to the Myers-Briggs or the Enneagram, which we took as a family a couple weeks ago. Is that how you say it? Enneagram. Thank you. Okay.
There's no O.
No O.
Enneagram. Okay. No O.
No, that's not any old gram.
Any old gram.
Similar to that. And what's the other one you guys take? You guys do...
So I've done done Strength Finders in the past. That's a more of a business related, but they've actually expanded to be pretty in depth to give you a better idea. And it's just helpful even in church life to say, hey, here's some of the details that I find myself leaning more into. So Strength Finders is a good one. I know that's available online. Seemed like there was another one that lost.
Prepare and Enrich does one, right, for couples that you guys were talking about?
Yeah, it's for couples, and that's usually that is a paid one, and that usually involves meeting with a Prepare and Enrich trained person, which there are a couple of us here to be anonymous for right now, but no, there's a couple of us.
Pastor Jeff and Pastor Don are, so if you want help there, boom.
There goes our anonymity, Don.
Ready to help. I love it.
We'll fix you.
But these, so personality profile tests are, I think, super important. And they're not always perfect, but a lot of times it's like, wow, they read my mind on that thing, and they threw it out there. For Leanne and I, when we take these things, not always showing up as the most compatible. But man, we make it work.
Yeah.
And so if you get these things and you take it with a spouse or significant other, it's like I wouldn't put all my rest into these things. But we've had to work through some things in our marriage. And
Sure.
this has been helpful for us to do that.
Right.
So that's one of the things in any relationship. Us and the kids have all taken it, and we all come back, pretty, controlling and strong-willed and all that stuff. So we kind of laugh about it, but we have to figure out how to make it work. And it can be helpful. The second part of the shape test is it talks about some of your passions. Like, what does God put you on earth for?
Yeah.
Why are you here?
That's good.
And what do you love to do? Because the truth is this: God has made you for a reason. And if you can discover that and live it out within a church setting, you're going to be super excited. You can lean into those giftings and talents. And man, it is one of my things I love to see is when people are operating within their strengths and they're just loving serving God the way that He's done it. And different people are different ways. So,
the book of Proverbs says that where there is no sense of purpose, people will cast off restraint. Another translation says where there's no vision, the people will perish or the people will go naked. The point of that passage is that people were created to be purpose-driven. People were created to have a passion and to pursue that passion. The verse says that when that is lacking, for whatever reason, if I don't know, I have any inkling at all as to what my giftings are, what's my calling, and I'm not pursuing the things that are deep down within me, I have no reason to restrain myself. Now think about all the temptations that are out there today that all of us are faced with on a regular basis. If I don't have a reason to restrain myself, logically and according to the verse, I can fall into anything. They say if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Well, if you don't have a sense of purpose, you certainly become vulnerable to anything. Now, a complementing verse is the verse that says that train up a child and the way they should go, when they're old they'll not depart. It actually should read, train up a child according to their bent. Not the way they should go. The original language, train up a child according to their bent. You look at that word bent throughout scriptures. It talks about the bent of a serpent. The term is actually the way of a serpent. The same Hebrew word, the bent of a serpent. The way of an eagle. All of these animals have particular bents. And it says, train up a child according to their bent. Clearly, children are born with bents. And the job of the parent is to identify that bent. The verse goes on to say, train up a child according to their bent, and when they grow a beard. That's literally what it says in the Hebrew language. When they grow a beard, they'll not depart. Interesting. So as a parent, if I can raise my children in a way where I can identify that, well, that kid over there, he's not going to be an athlete. He's going to be more musically inclined. Okay, so don't force a football into his hand and say, boy, you better do well at football to be a man. No. Come on. Respect the fact that he is more artistic. Respect the fact that maybe someone else is going to be more interested in pursuing something like psychotherapy, as an example. Rather than a typical, okay, guys, all of you are boys, here's a basketball, football, and you better fit into that somehow, some way. No. Train up a child according to their bent, and when they grow a beard, they'll not depart. You couple that with the previous verse, you will see fewer kids going astray. Someone walks down up to them and says, hey, I got some fresh dope. I just made some PCP. Man, it'll turn you on. I have a reason to not pursue that. I have passions I'm pursuing. So rather than just raise children with the stick in your hand, include the carrot. Include the carrot and the stick. You have a better chance of raising your children to be successful human beings.
Jordan, talk about this. You ready? Because I was thinking of you in this because you had a shift in your life. Like you grew up passionate about the martial arts. And, you know, how did that having that passion make a difference? And now you're passionate about music. I mean, talk about that a little bit.
I was just sharing this with someone the other day. There's a lot to this, so I'll try not to be long-winded with it. But I think, like I grew up without a dad, 14-year-old mom, so there's part of the testimony. So I was, the strife for identity was like massive. So my grandpa did everything that he could, though. He was one of those guys that stepped in and didn't try to be my dad. He just was a great grandfather. I mean, he was just an amazing grandfather. But like literally taught me from early on that anything was possible, and that he would be there with, like, he taught me how to drive a stick, got me on my bike at 3 or 4 years old, the whole deal. If you fall down, I'm going to be there with you, and then we'll do it again.
Oh, cool.
So, and then I remember he put me in every sport. And I found out early on that, like, I had a knack to just be able to, like muscle memory, all that stuff. I could learn it really quick and actually excel in it. But then he took me to a taekwondo tournament, and I jumped in a year later into martial arts, and it was something that I'd never experienced before. I mean, it was like, I played basketball, football, baseball, soccer up until this point. Then at 8 years old, they enroll me. But I also encountered something I had never encountered before, which we were talking earlier about this. We're not going to get into this, but I met like a black male that I looked up to.
Wow.
I'd never had it, ever. At that point, I'd been so abused already by black men that it was, we can talk about that another time. But my martial arts instructor, Ronnie Moore, I mean, just still to this day, like, wow. I found something in that was wild. At 8 years old, I figured out, I could understand longevity, and I didn't know how I knew how to, if you want to be a black belt, you're signing up for a 5-year journey. It's just all seasons. You're not going to enroll in one sport, get rid of that, jump to the next thing, whatever. I don't know what it was, but I just like latched onto it, and I was like, I'm in 2 days a week for the next 5 years. I don't know. Tried to quit for a season. Got my brown belt. I was a belt and a half away, and would see it every single day. I stopped. All my buddies were skateboarding. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go skateboard, whatever. Looked at that every day, and I was just like, dude, you got to go back and finish. I was like 13 years old. Went back, got my black belt at 14, and then got my second degree when I was 16. Became #1 ranked martial artist in the whole tri-state area. For 2 years, and there was this like boom. So I had found something. Part of it was, I think that like I was driven by this idea that like when I was 8, I thought the end was the black belt. Then I became 14, got to my supposed end, and realized it was a new beginning to something. Then you find out that there's 10 more degrees of black belt, and then things are based off of time duration, not just requirements or whatever. And I realized, wow, this is like, I've been disciplined to have this understanding that longevity is the real goal. Discipline is the real goal. It wasn't just about getting my black belt. So whatever. Could speak on and on about that. But then here's where the switch though was wild, because I was passionate about that, and I was passionate about achieving my accolades, and I wanted my person, like I was driven by that. If you're an Enneagram, I'm a 3, wing 4. This makes sense to you now,
bro.
Let's go. So I'm a 3. So you can see why achievement and da-da-da-da was like this thing for me. I mean, it just, whatever. But here's what happened. Now I'm a junior in high school. I've hit this success rate. And we were in California. I got recruited for this movie after this guy saw me compete. And after that, I was like, that's it. Like, this is what I'm doing. He goes, are you 18 yet? I'm like, no. I was like, all right, I want to be a stunt person. I want to perform. I want to act. I want to be in the entertainment industry with my martial arts career. And then when I get a little bit older, I'll open up a karate school back in Kansas. So all of that to say, then I meet Jesus, February 18th, 07. Have an encounter with God. I'll save you all that story too. But then this thing happens. God starts leading, like I start going to church, and on Sundays I became like just enthralled with worship. I had no idea what was going on. It wasn't even just music. It was like all of it. Like this girl, Kayla Bradshaw, how do you do what you do? You know, like you just... And so I start like these things start changing, and I feel like the Lord's like, I want you to quit martial. It was basically a follow me moment. And here's one thing I love about the follow me moment is Jesus never ridiculed them for being fishermen. He actually affirmed them. He goes, I see that you're fishermen. Follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. And he used it in context that they would understand. That's freaking powerful. He didn't discredit their past or what they did. Yeah. He's like, no, you get this idea, so I'm going to actually bring you into this and show you how you can use all of that for the kingdom. I felt like God did that with me. He's like, follow me. I want you to let go of martial arts and start singing. Now, I couldn't sing or play at all, a lick, not one lick.
Are you expecting us to believe that? Because
100%.
Wow.
100%. I could flip 12 feet in the air, kick straight up, do the whole deal. I could not sing or play. But here's what happened. My identity started switching to where I wasn't. It was the weirdest thing, man. God started healing me from this place of having to perform, and I felt this safety and this comfort in his presence. I know it sounds so cheesy, but I felt this. I remember my senior year, I'd quit everything. I was a cheerleader in high school. I was a martial artist. I quit all of it. And I sat in my room and annoyed the heck out of my mom, hitting this piano and singing, and I'd be crying because I just knew that it wasn't about how good I was. He just wanted me to sing to him. Wow. It was one of the most powerful dynamics I'd ever encountered in my life. And so people see me now and they're like, I do not believe you. And I'm like, it doesn't really matter. I mean, dude, people tell me like, bro, you can't sing at all, this whole deal. So all of this, like, it's a lot to share. But the reason like why I think that's super pertinent, I guess, to this, especially personality wise, is God didn't just transform and put me into a new craft. He helped shift and heal brokenness in my personality where I was trying to achieve everything because I didn't have a dad. I was trying to find my affirmation from everything else. If I achieved good, even in school when I failed, I'm like, I would say this: if I flip all the way down the hallway, will you give me extra credit? I mean, I would sit there and I would do it. Wow. She's like, oh, do it. And I'd be like, all right, here's 10 back handsprings. Now, give me 10% extra credit. Because I needed to perform. I needed to achieve in order to receive something. But then when I would pound on those keys in my little back room, I knew, you know how people are always like, ooh, somewhere between here and heaven, God. It's a beautiful sound. I'm like, oh, this was not a joyful noise. Hallelujah. But he saw a heart. And he began to heal me and change my personality. And he began to actually show me what I was actually made for. So that's what I love. If you do Enneagram stuff, a healthy 3 is a really cool thing to read. An unhealthy 3 makes you cringe because it's like, crap, I do that. But healthy 3s, it's a beautiful thing to read. And so anyways, I'll spare all the other details, but that's kind of the progression. So over the years, I've found myself being able to do that even with music, but my prayer from the beginning was, God, don't ever let music be what martial arts was in my life. And so it was always hard because then I started getting good at this. And then I started achieving accolades in this, and I started receiving praise in this and all of this stuff, and it began to take away the joy. I mean, there was a hard season 5-6 years ago where I struggled really hard with that, where I needed to try to make it something that it wasn't. And the Lord is just so kind. He's like, I don't ever want you to forget the 17-year-old kid that just knew that I loved what he was bringing to the table. And so how I've interacted with leadership and all those things over the years, growing up with no father, I mean, it just like really changed a lot. But I think the more I've settled into full identity and personality within the Lord. Again, without that being cheesy, it just is what it is. He helped transform me into what it was supposed to be, who I actually am. Not what I was striving to be,
right?
Who I actually am. So, anyways, there you go. That was long, but you cracked it open, so it was what it was.
That's very interesting, very insightful.
Yeah,
very insightful.
I want to turn the corner, give you guys a chance to speak into this, and then land the plane. Does that sound okay? So the corner I want to turn is that was awesome, and to see how God is using your passions is unbelievable. Seriously, and to say that you weren't talented at age 17. I'm going to believe you because I know you, but man, it's hard to even believe. It's hard to, I want to see that video. It's hard to believe. So, but here's our passion as a group, as a church, is to say, hey, if you're watching this, God has that passion for you. If you haven't found it yet, let us come alongside and help you. I mean, and a step in that process is literally to go to the website, newlifecity.church, go under resources, take that shape test, send an email to one of the four of us if you feel comfortable with us. We'll walk with you through that. We'll help you. I mean, if you are a musician, maybe, but maybe you are somebody else. You're artistic. You do something different that we don't even know yet. Use that passion for the kingdom. Let us help you do it. Let us as a church be a part of that. So I think that's what we want to communicate to you. That's the resource. And I want to throw it to you guys because I know you have some thoughts as we wrap it up. So Don and then Jeff, take us home.
One of the things in light of what you're saying, Troy, is that the least we will be able to do for you is to pray with you. That's the least. God, give this person direction. God, give this person insight within themselves. Who are they? That's the least we can do, and that's powerful. Powerful, no question, because if you can only imagine, there's no way to quantify what I'm going to say. How many people are walking the streets with no idea as to who they are, their bent, their passion at all? No idea at all. And man, to be able to hook up with someone. So yeah, take advantage of that to help you to find out just what's pulsating inside of you. Because once you're able to come to grips with that, that gives you a reason to discipline yourself, gives you a reason to sacrifice, an outlet for your passion. You find now that makes sense. Saying that to yourself about yourself. Yeah.
That's great. I love what Jordan communicated, because you can do the Myers-Briggs profile or personality thing, and that's important to understand your personality. But the difference is, as a follower of Christ, as someone who has given in and surrendered to the lordship of Jesus, it's a spiritual transaction that happens.
It is.
And so there's a difference between just understanding your personality and saying, no, now that Jesus is transforming me, is making me a new person, these spiritual gifts, that's where the term comes from, these things are now imparted into me. And then to discover those and find out what Jesus is transforming in us right there. And so that's what I love about the shape test. It's so well-rounded. See what I did there? You like that? Because it talks about personality, past experiences that make us who we are with some of our abilities and things, and then passions, and then spiritual gifts. And so it's all of those things that play into. And then the other thing really quick to encourage us with is sometimes your spiritual gift may not be one of the, if you want to call it the upfront things. And there are so many places that, I'll just make this personal, there's so many places that New Life City Church needs you. We need people with mercy gifts. We need people with administration gifts. There's all those gifts that make us a healthy body, and we need you. And so we want to find out what those are, what your skills are, what God's doing in your life, and then help you here within our walls and outside of our walls. So take that test and contact one of us. We'd love to walk you through that.
Jeff, you reminded me of Psalms 139, where the psalmist talks about the fact that how God intricately created him within his mother's womb, and how God knew him then in shaping and forming him, as well as having been with him. Doesn't mean that you're redeemed, but it means that God, who's omniscient, knows you, understands you, and our job is to come into contact with that God, our Creator, and that step will be a progression in us getting to understand who we are ourselves, who I am, me understanding me, and that helps me to know how I want to invest my resources, invest my time, my energies, and what have you. Yeah. Wouldn't it be tragic for a person like Jordan, to having gone through what he's gone through, to spend his life trying to pursue carpentry? Wouldn't it be tragic? When
yes,
I have no idea what kind of carpenter. I don't know if the guy's a handyman or not, but here he is, years in martial arts and now in music, and he's fumbling around trying to figure out, well, what am I supposed to be doing? But that would be tragic. Reality is that we're saying we'd like to help you to discover not only who God is, as important as that is, and as great as that is, but in the process, discover who you are.
Right. Can I add one thing to that?
Yeah.
This is making me think, like, another thing that would have been tragic is me listening in the beginning to all of the opposition when I felt like God called me into something that could become and grow into a passion. That would have been one of the worst things that would have ever happened, is listening to that instead of, and I think to know that God is passionate about you, and I know that's like, well, duh, but it's like, that was what drove me. It made every other like opposing voice or times of moments of doubt or what am I doing to just fade away, and to really understand, one, he loves me and he's passionate about me. But the tragedy would have been to look back 13 years ago. That's it. To have imagined like quitting back then and been like, forget it. Yeah. It would have been weird, because I think, like, as much as I love martial arts still to this day, that would have been a tragedy. That's a great way to put that, because like, if I would have still pursued this route, I don't think that I would have walked out the full purpose and passion. And so just to give people confidence within that God will be calling you into something, and it might not even make full sense, but if you know that he's passionate about you and that you feel driven to something, it's worth sticking to and opening up about. And so, anyways, I appreciate you saying that, because that was really good.
That's a good word. Well, I think that wraps us up for today. Yeah. Man, thanks to every one of you guys for sharing. And thanks to you if you made it this far, sticking with us. You guys are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, have a good one.